like to call to order the Peabody Planning Board meeting agenda for Thursday, January 5th, 2023 at 7 p.m. at the Wigan Auditorium, 44 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass. This meeting will be broadcast in public access TV. First item, right now I'd like to close the regular meeting and enter into the public hearing. First public hearing listed on the agenda is definitive subdivision Westwood Ave.
Mr. Chairman and planning board members, you'll have received in your packets a letter from the applicant, or on behalf of the applicant, from attorney David Ankleys requesting the withdrawal of the subdivision application that was filed for Westford Ave.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to receive a communication from attorney Ankleys regarding Westford Ave and requesting the withdrawal of said project.
We have a motion.
Motion to receive.
Second.
Second. All those in favor of the withdrawal?
Aye.
Would you like a roll
No.
call on that?
Time out. Yeah. That was to receive. Mr. Chairman, I would move to allow the petitioner for Westford Ave to withdraw. So moved.
Do you have a second on the withdrawal?
Second.
Roll call.
Roll call, please.
Attorney Peter Avarantes,
Yes.
Mr. Simos,
Yes.
Mr. Gagnon,
Yes.
Mr. Ford. Yes. Mr. Feld's not here. Mr. Genzali,
Yes.
Mr. Mark Perlman.
Yes.
Oh, Dr. Judith Otto. Yes. And Mr. Thomas Betancourt.
Yes. At this time, I would like to close the public hearing for Westwood and return.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to close the public hearing for Westford Ave.
We have a second from Dr. Otto. All those in favor of the closure of the public hearing? Unanimous. Thank you. Okay. Second public hearing on the agenda. Notice is hereby given that the City of Peabody Planning Board will conduct a public hearing Thursday evening, January 5th, 2023, 7 p.m. at the Wigan Auditorium, City Hall, Peabody, 24 Lowell Street. General laws to consider amending the zoning ordinance of the City of Peabody as follows. Be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Peabody as following. That the zoning ordinance of the City of Peabody entitled Zoning Ordinance 2011 as amended October 27, 2022 is hereby further amended as follows. Section 1 by amending Section 6 entitled Special Regulations as follows. By detailing in its entirety Section 6.15 Mill Overlay District as adopted March 14, 2019, and inserting in place thereof a new Section 6.15 entitled Mill Overlay District as follows. 6.15 Purpose, 6.151 Establishment of Boundaries, 6.152 Adaptability Relationship to Underlying Zoning, 6.15.3 Permit Uses, 6.15.3.1 Follow uses shall be permitted in the right by Mill Overlay District, 6.15.3.2 following uses shall be permitted by special permit in Mill Overlay District. 6.155 noise, 6.156 lights, 6.157 waivers. Section 2, that this zoning map of the City of Peabody entitled City of Peabody Zoning Map, April 28, 2011, be amended to hereby further amend as follows. The following parcels. Assessors map 53, parcel 46A, assessors map 53, parcel 46C, assessors map map 53, parcel 47. Since these are all on map 53, I'll make it shorter. Parcel 865, parcel 867, parcel 500, parcel 501, parcel 502, parcel 503, 504, 505, 506, 507, 508. New divisions or lots thereof. Copies of the proposed mod zoning amendment are available for public viewing at the City Clerk's Office, City of Peabody, Development and Planning, City Hall, Peabody. Section 3, all ordinances or part of ordinances inconsistent herewith are hereby repealed. Section 4, this ordinance will take place in effect as provided by law. The rules of a public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of this amendment?
Excuse me. Kurt Belovitz, I'm the Director of Community Development and Planning. Before you this evening, we have an amendment to the existing mill overlay district. You may be familiar with this. We were here approximately 4 years ago to present the original mill overlay district. The planning board at that time supported that and was in favor of that. It moved on to the city council, who adopted that mill overlay district. And then we added the existing lot of 58 rear Pulaski into that district. Then recently, we were before the planning board and the city council in regards to adding an additional lot to that mill overlay district, which was an adjacent property. That was successful. That was voted on by and recommended by the planning board to the city council, which then adopted the language of the map change to add that additional parcel into that. What we were looking to create about 4 years ago was to take a underperforming building in an industrial area that had some questionable activities going on. The life safety systems to the building were hazardous to any type of occupancy, but in order to invest in that building, the existing zoning wouldn't perform well for any interested parties in purchasing that. So we worked with the developer and our staff, along with the mayor and ward councilors and other city councils at that time, to create the mill overlay district. As you've probably noticed, if you've been in the city for more than 4 or 5 years, that the mill district has changed quite a bit from what it was existing to what it is today. In fact, we were here, as I mentioned earlier, last year or a little bit earlier, to change and add additional property to that district because it's been performing and been very successful. So in working through that process, we've had interested other property owners that have asked and inquired in regards to the mill overlay. They like the success that is happening there. They want to be part of that. They want to make sure that their property can perform as well as the mill's property is performing. So working with and discussing that with existing property owners, working with the mayor, the ward councilor, and our assistant city solicitor, we drafted some additional language, some minor changes to the mill overlay district, as well as looking to expand that district to include the abutting properties to the mill overlay district, which was ultimately the goal in the beginning, was to create a district and hopefully expand that district, and hoping that the project would be successful. We feel pretty confident that that's what's happened, and so now we're taking that next step and looking to expand the district. You have before you, there's a map that we had drafted. The language of that was listed in the advertisement listed the parcels. We wanted to put an illustration before you so it would make it easier for some people that they could see which properties were included. So we did that, and I believe Andrew passed that out to everyone this evening. Some of the changes in regards to the district language. I know at the last city council meeting, or one of the previous city council meetings, they asked what how would you define a mill building? What constitute that? So we wanted to make sure that we discussed, what a mill district would be. So we changed the language that basically talks a little bit about that. And it talks about I'll kind of read this. It says, an area which includes but not limited to at least 3 or more mill buildings constructed prior to 1940, which at one time were used for manufacturing or industry. So we wanted to put that definition right into the purpose of the mill overlay so people would understand better, what we were talking about in regards to this area. We made some minor changes in regards to just cleaning up some of the language based on our assistant city solicitor, Elizabeth Lashway. She had taken a look at that as her first, as coming on board for the city recently, having to work with us more closely. She took a look at and made some minor edits in regards to that so that it was a little bit more clear in regards to what the language was. We also looked at changing some of the uses in regards to what we allowed as by right and by special permit. So those minor changes are also included in the new language for the mill overlay. So those are there. It's very similar to what we did, but we did add some language for demolition of existing buildings. We wanted to make sure that if they were going to be tearing down any buildings, that they would first have to get a special permit in order to do that. We didn't want to have more control over the district, so we added that additional language. That's kind of how we cleaned it up. It's pretty much, I'm going to say, very similar to the language that's on the books now in regards to the zoning ordinance. I'm happy to answer any questions. We did have, there are some minor tweaks that I'd like to discuss as well, and I can wait till everybody has questions, and then I can offer those after everybody comments. Thank you.
This time I'll accept questions from the board. Doc?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question about section 6.15.4, subsection C, that new signs and facade improvements shall be based on the guidelines for the Main Street sub-district. And I'm wondering, my recollection is, and maybe I'm incorrect, because Main Street is pretty much built to back of sidewalk, we don't really have a provision so much for freestanding signs. And yet, in the case of this proposed district, it seems that freestanding signs would actually be pretty helpful. I wonder if that's the best reference to use for signage.
Yes, I certainly understand that. I know they've kept existing signs, talked to them about the signs that were presented before us as part of the plan are most of the signs that are attached to the building, banners, and other signs like that. What we've talked to them about is any proposals. We want to use those downtown design guidelines because they were thoughtfully written. We wanted to use that as basically an example of how we wanted them to address their building. But because of the way 6.15.4 is written, it gives the Community Development Department an opportunity to review that and present a recommendation to the building commissioner. So there is some flexibility in regards to that, but we want to make sure we had some standards that they would apply.
Thank you. One additional question, if I may. I also have a question about section 6.15.7, waivers given by the ZBA. Isn't it true that the ZBA would always have the ability to entertain waivers from dimensional requirements? I wonder about in consideration for the applicant's support of public projects.
Your question, yes, the zoning board would always have that ability to do that. Certainly, we could look at whether the special permit granting authority or the Board of Appeals could look at that in lieu of public projects. Certainly something we could review.
My point being, I don't think that the ability to apply for waivers from dimensional standards should necessarily be conditioned on support for public projects. Thank you.
Kurt, on the same point, why are we using the word waiver in this section as opposed to variance? I always think of the ZBA as a variance granting authority. Is it the same thing?
Yes, it would be the same thing. I'm not exactly sure why waiver was chosen over specific variance, but
It sounds that it may connote some difference, but I'm not sure.
Dimensional, waive dimensional requirements.
Any other questions from the board?
Through the chair, Kurt, that's 56 Pulaski that you've expanded to, which is sort of a newer kind of commercial, industrial condo building. Just, could you elaborate a little bit on the decision to incorporate that into this overlay?
yeah, one of the reasons that we looked at that is because it's part of the reasoning behind the mill overlay is we wanted to create more of a transitional zoning district where you have basically that property sitting next to a bunch of single-family homes. So you have an industrial district adjacent to single-family homes. So we want to create like I said, a transitional zone where we have basically softer uses, whether it was a office, retail type, those types of things, and then also allow the ability for those owners to do that transition if they choose to do so. So we expanded it basically to kind of cover both sides of that property along Pulaski Street, so that there was further opportunity to develop something that wasn't as industrial. Right now, under the industrial uses, there are a lot heavier uses like trucking terminals, which we didn't feel that would be appropriate for really a residential neighborhood.
Kurt, two questions. So this new overlay it's taking into consideration residential housing too. Is that right, or is that what you were? I'm just trying to get a little clearance on, just clarity on that. So someone may be able to do condos or apartments there, and probably not single-family homes, but
No, currently the mill overlay district does not include housing of any kind.
Okay. And the other question I had was on the following use shall be permitted by right. Can you explain to me what the personal service establishment would be?
That would be could be a nail salon, a hairdresser, an accountant, any type of service that would be provided on a small level. It wouldn't be a commercial type of use. I'm trying to think of some other, a tailor.
That's all right. That's fine.
Dr. Otto?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just going back to Peter's second comment, adding the building that's most southerly on the property, was that building in fact built before 1940?
No, but the language, what we're doing is creating a district. So within that, we wanted the district to have at least 3 existing buildings that were built prior to 1940. Because what we understood was that there will be new construction, and we want to promote new construction within that district, but we wanted to kind of define what a district would be.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, through the chair. So I have a few questions. I saw that you tried to do the abutters, but there's a couple of abutters apparently intentionally left out. For instance, the property that owned, that currently houses the land's electric supply, that's an abutter, that's left out. And I don't even know if Mr. DeLand, who's come to a couple of these meetings over the months or years, even wants to participate. The other building is that what used to be the power plant for when this was one big facility. It abuts that Willard Way. That's an abutter. So it just seems like you're increasing the footprint, I guess I gather your rationale, but like that 56 Pulaski, those are all the 500s, because they're all condos. And I spoke to an owner of a condo there, and he didn't know anything about this. So I wonder how one can change zoning on somebody's property, and these, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 owners, I only spoke to one, don't know that somebody wants to change the zoning on their property. What if they don't want it changed? They're not here.
All right, well,
Did they get a certified letter to tell them that the city wants to change their zoning? They should have. I know
Right.
they didn't, because they're not here. Nobody's here.
Okay. No, it's my understanding that we did draft it in a butters list and notices did go out, so.
Okay. To every single abutter that meets the abutters rules, right? Whether it's 200 feet or whatever the number is. I just don't like doing things to people's property that they may not be aware of. I don't think it's right. And
Just so you're clear, and that people who are watching at home or and people in the audience, that there were 2 notices sent out. So one that was in regards to the public hearing for the planning board, and one that was in regards to the public hearing for the city council. So I can't address that particular individual and why they didn't get an abutters list or abutters notification, but those were sent out.
okay. I don't even know if this is related or not. I think someday it's going to be related. It's not related now because it's not on the list. But the former Webster Industries building, which is now called Pulaski Acquisitions LLC, which is the last building on the right, if you go down Ria Pulaski, is where they wanted to put the theater or the function facility. It almost seems like now might have been the appropriate time to somehow get that on the list, but it must have missed the cutoff. If indeed the city or the city councilor or the ward councilor wants to find a way to allow that without allowing it in all IL, in the whole city. So are we going to see this again in a month or 2? Do you know that, Kurt?
That was a private application from a landowner. That wasn't something that was put through either by the city council or the planning office. So I can't say whether that applicant is going to come back or not. As I mentioned earlier, the reason we've been slowly trying to expand this district, probably the biggest change in this new one was that we're going to allow new construction. So that's kind of our next step in the push. So in the future, we'd look at adding additional parts to that, and how well these developments, the direction we want to see. So that's why we added for one area, we added another area a few months ago to expand that allow. We would look at expanding even further back to the rear of Pulaski.
Okay, thank you.
Building, that's inside of the blue, right? What did not? What changed? What aside from which months? Why the projects that kind of that have potential, or these new can you speak about? Are they? What's kind of just from a mere few minutes?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Stephanie Peach. I live at 19 Margin Terrace. I'm the Ward 3 counselor. I understand this won't be voted on tonight, which I agree with, so we can get the correct language over to you. There were probably 8 drafts between myself, the mayor, and Kurt over the last 2 months trying to get this put together. So understandably, that maybe the wrong one was sent to the council for acceptance. I did just want to address a few of the comments that the board had and kind of give you an idea of why we got to this point and why certain parcels are included or not included. So the sale of 60 Pulaski Street, along with the 40B at 58 Pulaski Street, along with the addition of the D building for 58 Pulaski Street that you approved or were in favor of 4 or 5 months ago, has kind of led to a big discussion overall with the residents that live on Pulaski and the abutting neighborhood across the street and the different business owners within the industrial park. So the idea, especially with 60 Pulaski Street, which is currently only zoned for industrial use, the neighbors are very afraid of any additional heavy industrial use. So there are some industrial uses, that do close down at 5 and everybody goes home, and there are some industrial uses that have trucks going through the night. So on the will of the neighbors coming to me and speaking with some of the other business owners, just looking to give the owners of this property another option. That's not to say that they have to go the route of, any uses in this overlay, but it just gives people the option. I did talk to some of the condo owners that they did receive the abutters notices, and the ones that I spoke with were in favor of it because it does increase the value of their condo, because there are more uses that can be done without special permit that aren't specifically heavy industrial. So I did speak with them, but the reason that that I suggested, and through conversations with the city solicitor and the mayor and Kurt, that parcel also be included was to just kind of avoid any accusation of spot zoning. And, Mr. Deland's property would be eligible to be in this. The property in the back on Old Country Way would be eligible. I think the issue was there was never a definition of what a mill building was, which was an issue the city council brought up. But that building in the back is certainly qualifies for a mill building, and that theater zoning that you heard over the last 2 months, that was applied by a private owner. That was not through the city, and really wasn't a discussion with anyone in the city, to my knowledge. So, if that property owner wanted to apply to be in this district, that would obviously come before you again. I know you're probably sick of hearing the mill overlay, but this is, as Kurt described, a concept that started 4 years ago, and we've seen success with it in some areas and think that we can continue to see success. There are no plans from any of these property owners to change what they're doing, which is what I think the slow progression in this industrial park is beneficial, because you can continue your existing industrial uses, but you have an option now, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, you can plan that for your business, for your property, of what might happen, because some of the uses, some of the things that happen back here, could inevitably just be regulated out from federal and state, environmental regulations. So as those things change on those levels, it's just providing these businesses and these property owners more options as to what they can do moving forward. I am in support of this, and I understand we don't all have the same language in front of us, so I'm happy to answer questions if you have specific questions. I hope I addressed the concerns that you had and just provided a background as to why this is before you and why certain parcels are included. That's not to say additional parcels wouldn't be added later in the future if they wanted to be. I think just defining abutting parcels to an existing mill building allows us to kind of expand through this industrial park and transform it over time to be a better use for the community. Not to say that it's a bad use now, but just allowing more options as different businesses shift and change, and as the neighborhood changes as well. So thank you.
Through the chair. Yeah, Council, thank you. That was a very good explanation as far as it's concerned with 60 Pulaski. That makes a lot of sense. If it's a raw piece of land, and I appreciate that, protecting the neighborhood from only an industrial use. That makes a lot of sense. And then just out of curiosity, parcel R, not interested? The rest of the, starts off small right at Willard and turns into the big part that goes out to the rest of the waterfront? Behind, I suppose that's,
I'm really,
wait,
really blind, so.
oh, you're never gonna see it on there. I'm cheating. I'm on the map geo or whatever, but it's the beyond Wayside, the big,
Oh, gotcha.
but it goes out to Pulaski rear. It's got a little, probably they just weren't potentially interested at this time, or too much to grab? What was just a thought? It's the big one.
Part of the discussion too was ensuring that, is that parcel there? Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. Part of the discussion too was ensuring that this overlay couldn't be interpreted to expand across the public way, which is where the residents lie, across the street, across Pulaski Street and further up Pulaski Street. That was something I talked to the Assistant City Solicitor about, that, we wanted to ensure that we can really contain the overlay district and not have any issues with, someone say, well, we do technically abut this property, there's just a public road that's in the way. So that might be why it was left out. There, I wasn't involved in every single step of this discussion, but there is reasoning for it. I did speak with I believe that's owned. It's not listed as Wayside. They have another LLC. Yes, VRRM. It's the same owners as Wayside, and I did have a conversation with them. They don't have any plans to develop, or change the use that they have on their property now, but they were part of this discussion very much so. They own the most land in this park, and there's a lot of future potential for them should they choose. So that was part of the discussion. I think they would love to have that parcel in there, and I did have a conversation with them about it, but because there was no direct abutting parcel, I think that's why it was left off. Whether we define Pulaski rear as part of it, I know it's outlined here, but there's been some discussion, is that a private way? Is it not a private way? There is, an easement on it, so that is part of the discussion too. And that's a little bit more technical than I can speak to, so.
Thank you.
My name is John Kelty, and I'm an attorney. I have offices at 40 Lowell Street in Peabody, Mass. And I'm appearing on behalf of Pulaski Acquisition LLC. I was here last month, I was here asking for an amendment to the zoning ordinance to allow theater and public space to be allowed in the IL zoning district. I had asked that it be allowed by right. This board recommended the adoption of such an amendment by the City Council. However, this board recommended that it be by special permit. I then went to the City Council subcommittee meeting, and the notion of trying to incorporate my requested zone change at that time came up at the subcommittee meeting as perhaps being included in this zoning amendment. So Mr. Felitti of Pulaski Acquisition LLC would like to be recorded as being in favor of the change, and he would ask that his land, which is map 53, lot 82, it is the building which Roy was speaking of, which is the old Webster Industries, and now houses several tenants, and that is the building that that is owned by Pulaski Acquisition LLC, and where we would be proposing to put the user of a theater in public space. If we get through this whole process. My client is in favor of the zone change. He would ask that his parcel of land be located. That parcel is map 53, lot 82, and we would ask that our use, theater and public space, be added to the list of uses, and that theater and public space be defined as we were proposing to the city council, but that's something that can be worked on even before it comes back here if the board is of a mind to respond favorably to this request this evening. And I think with that, I'm happy to answer questions that you may have. Another parcel of land that is owned by Mr. Peabody is included. That is a parcel of land adjacent to 58 Mills and heading towards Danvers, and is currently an empty parcel of land. That is included, and we're asking that Mr. Peabody's other parcel be included as well. Thank you.
Questions from the board?
Kurt, if I may. The subject matter that Attorney Kelty just spoke about is a very recent bit of business. It's not included in here at all? The theater and the public space?
Correct, it's not part of that.
Is it, could it be?
It's something that, I mean, there's a lot that goes involved with a public hall or theater in regards to, one of the questions is assembly, building of assembly, also parking. Typically, if you have, depending on the size, you could have a large event with lots of parking needed. So it's something that we didn't really examine as part of that. As I said before, we're looking at trying to expand this district slowly to see how it progresses, and then
We had to hammer out the definitions of a couple of items, so. I don't think I'm against any of this, but we need to tighten up the language, because words are everything, you know. Thank you.
Just through the chair, just one comment that I'm glad Stephanie Peach explained a lot of interesting nuances, but I would just caution her and anybody else involved with this particular theater public assembly thing at the Pulaski Acquisitions Building way down the end. Please be careful with this and condition it such that if it ever gets approved, condition it such that there can be no events there during normal work hours, because the parking is a nightmare now. And if you layer in a corporate event during daylight hours, while the 23 businesses in that building have all their customers and workers there, it's going to be a parking gridlock. So I'm in that park 3-4 hours a day for the last 4 months, and you probably know why. So just let you know. Thank you.
Would the person attending via Zoom, Emily Pauls, would you like to speak? You can raise your hand using the function if you would like to on Zoom.
Anyone else wish to speak either in favor or opposition to this at this time? Hearing none, I would accept the motion to continue this public hearing to the next meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to recess the public hearing for the Mill Overlay District changes to the next hearing in January.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
At this time, Planning Board. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the amendments of 11-3, 11-17, and 12-1. Motion, please. Approval of the minutes.
Motion to accept the prior minutes as indicated. What were the dates?
Motion to,
To accept the minutes.
yes. Do you have a second to that?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous, thank you.
I mean, no one is saying.
Item on the agenda is site building permit plan for 190 Newbury Street, map 35, lot 038A.
John Kelty for the applicant, and I have submitted a written request for a continuance for this matter until 26th? Yes, till January 26th.
Mr. Chairman, move to receive a written communication from Attorney Kelty in regards to 190R Newbury Street, requesting an extension of time to act until January 26, 2023. Move to receive and grant said extension.
Second.
Do I have a second? All those in favor? Unanimous. Next item on the agenda is 55 Pulaski Street, map 53, lot 029.
Mr. Chairman, just before Attorney Kelty here, I would assume, request continuance. There was in your packets quite a few memos and responses to different reviews that are happening. Just to make sure everybody's staying on top of these, there's many a review happening currently, so what's in your packet right now was a review, then a response by the applicant as well. So many are coming. I think we just received another one today as well that we can hand out to everybody here tonight for your next meeting for review as well.
Mr. Chairman, in regards to 55 Pulaski Street, I move to receive a written communication from Attorney Kelty requesting an extension of time to act until January 26th of 2023.
Second.
Aye.
I only get to bill when I speak.
Okay, so that's that. That's done.
Next item on the agenda, appointment none. Subdivision Board action, definitive Westford Ave, that was taken care of, withdrawn. Correspondence, memo from Community Development on Westwood Ave. All that Westwood Ave that was in your packet will be reviewed. We have a letter from Lynn Police Department, letter from Lynn Fire Department, email from Lynn Department of Public Works, and a draft proposal of covenant for limiting access and egress in the packet. And we have memos from Robert Langley for 55 Pulaski Street for you to review, and Andrew has gone through those to review them, and for the next meeting, any questions to come up from any of those reviews. Special permit application, Jack Ellis LLC for property at 468 Lowell Street. From the City Council and other matters properly before the board. At this time, matters before the board would be vote our recommendations for offices of the City of Peabody Planning Board. Those offices are chairman, vice chairman, and secretary. We will accept a nomination from a board member for a specific person, and we have to have on those two subsequent, see what it's called? Seconds. We have to have 2 consecutive seconds. At this time, I'll accept nominations from the board.
Mr. Chairman, I nominate Thomas Bettencourt as chair.
Second.
Second.
I will accept. Can we have a vote on that? All those in...
We'll take a roll call.
Take a roll call.
Attorney Arvanites,
Yes.
Mr. Simos,
Yes.
Mr. Gagnon,
Yes.
Mr. Ford,
Yes.
Mr. Genzali,
Yes.
Dr. Otto,
Yes.
Mr. Proman,
Yes.
and Mr. Bettencourt.
Next, I'll accept an application, a recommendation for vice chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I'll nominate John Ford, as Vice Chairman.
I'll second that.
Second.
I'll second.
You accept?
Accept it.
Roll call, please.
Attorney Arvanites,
Yes.
Mr. Simos,
Yes.
Mr. Gagnon,
Yes.
Mr. Genzali,
Yes.
Dr. Otto,
Yes.
Mr. Proman,
Yes.
and Mr. Bettencourt.
Yes. Next item would be recommendation for secretary.
Mr. Chairman, I would move Peter Arvanites to the position of secretary.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Simos,
Yes.
Mr. Gagnon,
Yes.
Mr. Ford,
Yes.
Mr. Genzali,
Yes.
Dr. Otto,
Yes.
Mr. Proman,
Yes.
and Mr. Bettencourt.
Yes. And now, we need to draw from voting positions. We'll pass around the box, pull out the number, and that will be your voting position.
Somebody will have to pull for Attorney Cooper. How many members do we have?
And Feld.
In Dennis. 1, 2, 3. Well,
She could be the last
You go
one.
last, correct?
Yes, always last.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
There's
7,
9.
8. Mark is an alternate, so he does not get.
Okay.
Whatever number's left, you can use for,
We have quite a few in here, so we gotta take out 14's not needed. 13.
10.
Yeah, Attorney Cooper and Dennis Feld are not here.
You don't need 10, though. 9 is in there. 15, 9, 8, 7, 5, 2, 4, 6, and 3.
Excellent.
You want to give me the others?
You ready to mark it down?
Yep.
All right. It goes by, do we do it by, I forget, do we always do it by the order, or do we do it just sitting currently?
Just take a number.
Take a number, pass it out. Be very careful with this box, everyone.
It's an antique.
It is. Read your number, though, so.
Number L. It's number 7.
Number 4.
Drew, you have Attorney Ankley's letter on file, right? You don't need this?
Yeah. Don't look, pull it out. You gotta tell us the number, though.
yeah. Yeah, no.
Number 5. 6.
You guys gotta shake this up a little bit here.
Number Number 2. Number 3.
I can't do that quick math. What are the last two numbers then?
We need 1.
Did you draw?
Yeah, someone will need to draw for Dennis. This is for Dennis Feld.
Okay. Number 8. Number 1.
Please put the ball back into. Everybody, can't lose those.
Any other matters before the board?
Yes. I will just wait though until everybody's put this back in, and I'll bring it up. You guys, that is a box that is. The bottom of it states it was made in 1808, so we are very careful with that box. At the last meeting, it was brought up that we're looking to revise the fees. We thought it was a pretty easy process that the planning board would get to decide their own fees. We've since seen some information that might not just be up to the planning board, it might include city council as well. I'm waiting to hear back from city solicitor on that, about moving that forward. We had brought up having a subcommittee. I was then thinking that rather than just look at one item for the planning board in this new year, I've been thinking that there's a few different items that the planning board may wish to look at, including our site plan review, not site plan review regulations, but looking at what we review within a site plan. I'm thinking in lines of adding in language about transportation demand management, climate resilience, and other items as well. And I think we need to look at both site plan review as well as our subdivision rules and controls. So rather than just a subcommittee being for just the fees, this would be looking at, for lack of better terms, a kind of revamp of certain things for the planning board. We can discuss a little bit more. I can come maybe with a better proposal for the next meeting, but I wanted to get people in this idea in people's minds now. Maybe they can start thinking of things. If any members wish to be on that subcommittee, that'd be great. But I'll come with a better proposal for the next meeting. We'll toss it on the agenda, and maybe we can take a vote on that.
Any other matters before the board?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to observe, for the purposes of record keeping, that I did not receive the 2 letters requesting extensions on the 2 site plans in the packet. I didn't see them in email, and I didn't see them here. So I just want to make sure that our archive, our public record, contains those documents. Thank you.
They were handed at the meeting tonight by Attorney Kelty on pieces of paper. We have them, though, right here to be added into the record.
Any other motions?
Mr. Chairman, move to adjourn. Aye.
I'd like to thank you all, and I hope next year is a very peaceful in the year.
You have it, Michelle, written down? I have it all written down.